HIAC Talk Radio. Things are going to change. I want to say, episode 500, Craig knows started as something else and is now moving to something completely different. But I'm excited for it. Craig's wrestling historian is not going to change. Let's just say things are probably going to change for the better around here because it's going to take a lot of pressure off me. I'll still be producing and hosting as always, but you'll find out. You got to tune in 5 more weeks, folks. 5 more weeks. I'm Dan Calachico, Dan Law 83 on all social media platforms. Listen to this podcast and all VOC Nation radio podcasts, vocnation.com, on your smartphone. The app with all the podcasts on it, that thing you listen to and you press play to the podcast. Type in VOC Nation Radio Network and find all the podcasts there. Obey the Puck, Stadium Journey, HIAC, and anything else. Almost made it. Almost goddamn made it. Anything else on VOC Nation Radio Network, you will find there. With me as always is Craig Lagans at Big Surprise. And he'll even tell you how to spell it at the end of the episode. Craig Lagans on all social media platforms. Before we talk about the good thing that came out from wrestling last week, let's talk about the thing we missed. And I forgot that we missed it, that because we did Nerd Herders. The passing of one. We're not going to talk about the last 2 years of his life on social media. We're ignoring that. We all know his political beliefs and his opinions on things that he probably shouldn't have an opinion on. We're skipping that. We're talking about the wrestling career of Road Warrior Animal, which was shocking. This is one of all the things that have happened in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, Eddie Van Halen passed, and a lot of us knew it was gonna come sooner or later because he was so sick for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Peart was shocking. I'm not putting this at the level of Neil Peart. This was shocking as far as wrestling because it was like, wait a minute, what? What happened? And he was gone.
A week after his anniversary, where he was posting pics with him and his lovely wife of many, many years, the mother of his 3 children, and we just say, "Oh, well, that's great. He looks great, and good for Joe." And then 1 week later, Joe Laurinaitis, one half of the greatest tag team of all time. I'll say it. Others have said it. Others will continue to say it. Bubba Ray Dudley says it. Anytime anyone asks him, it's the Road Warriors, hands down.
Who am I to argue with Bubba Ray Dudley?
With Bubba Ray Dudley, yeah.
You know?
But the one half of the team, I always say, I've said on this very podcast, and I'm so grateful for this podcast that I have an outlet to talk about our love of professional wrestling and how it's shaped me throughout my life. But the most influential tag teams, I always put the 3, the Freebirds, the Fabulous Ones, and the Road Warriors, because you cannot discount what the Road Warriors meant to professional wrestling. The Road Warriors influenced more tag teams than almost as many as the previous 2 that I mentioned, because tag team wrestling, it was always, if you had a big guy as part of a tag team, you had a little guy, and they were just like a makeshift tag team. They were just a one and done type of deal. If you want to, team up Andre with anyone, or Dick the Bruiser with Tito Santana for a night, because it was, now you have 2 big guys on the same team, and their style influenced everyone. They would attack folks before the bell. Usually when a team attacks another team before the bell, that's for the blow-off feud. That's for the big revenge match, where the faces run into the ring and attack the heels, before the bell sounds and the crowd goes nuts. The Road Warriors were doing that on Saturday morning TV to start their careers. And it became the Road Warrior attack. And it would be when they would go to house shows, they'd run at breakneck speed toward the ring and then beat the crap out of their opponents. A lot of people on the old Georgia Championship Wrestling TV tapings, when wrestlers would come to the arena, the TV studio, look at the booking sheets, who were we up against? Anyone who saw the Road Warriors name If they stayed, they didn't stay long. Or though there's many. Will tell you they just turned around and left the building.
I quit. I'm not taking the
Yeah,
pay today.
yeah. And because these two guys, Joe Laurinaitis and Michael Hegstrand, were greener than grass when they started,
Yeah,
and
they were.
were stiff. But what made them great is that they learned, and and because they were both Supermen, but when they started to sell, when uh, they became such a feared heel team that when a babyface team got on their heels, the place would go nuts. But because of the Road Warrior influence, and because they got so popular so fast, and they were on national TV on TBS during the infancy of the Superstation in '83 and '84, and this is also when cable TV was starting to expand. Then the next thing you know, the Road Warriors, the Georgia National Tag Team Champions. Oh well, now Jerry Lawler wants them in Memphis. Now Eddie Graham wants them in Florida. Now Vern Gagne wants them in the AWA. They're a local Georgia team, and then he loaned them out, and they go to all these different territories, and they sell out. They were the tag team equivalent of Andre the Giant. No other wrestler was like Andre. Andre didn't belong to one federation during his career until Vince signed him exclusively because as his favor to his dad. But Andre would appear in every different territory throughout the United States as a special attraction. The Road Warriors were the only tag team to do that. They would be they were main event Florida. Then they would go to Tennessee with Jerry Lawler. They would go to Mid South because Bill Watts loved them. They would go to the AWA. They would go to California. Uh, Over there, the NWA Los Angeles, because everyone needed the Road Warriors. And then when they couldn't get the Road Warriors exclusively, Dan, territory started making up their own Road Warriors. That's their influence. In Florida, you had the Zambui Express, Leroy Brown and Ray Candy. In the Central States, you had the Mod Squad, Spike and Basher. I told you Bill Watts loved the Road Warriors, so he created the Blade Runners, Rock and Sting. Rock became somebody, Sting became Sting. He had the Powers of Pain.
It's just
And
like you
of
were
course,
like, he became somebody.
yeah, but this person wouldn't have, but these two would not have become professional wrestlers if it were not for the Road Warriors. Because of the success of the Road Warriors, Rick Bassman said, well, these two muscle bound guys are making tons of money. I can get two muscle bound guys now that muscle bound guys are in, now that every single territory wants their own muscle bound tag team. Why don't I put together something? Call them Freedom USA or call them the Freedom Fighters or something. I'll get this guy, Steve Borden, I'll get this other guy, Jim Hellwig, and we'll put them together and we'll make something because that's what's in now is you need a big muscle bound tag team. Every territory needs one. Even the WWF. They met with the Road Warriors, with Paul Elway more specifically, but the Road Warriors were making more money in 1986, 85, 86 in the NWA and the AWA than the WWF could pay them. And next thing you know, there's demolition because
Yeah.
they couldn't get the Road Warriors. So all these different teams I named were because of the influence of the Road Warriors. You cannot, you couldn't have a tag team, the big man muscle Powers of Pain, um, if not for the Road Warriors. And they almost became like I call them the real world of reality TV. The real world first was a trendsetter, then they just became another reality show. And with the Road Warriors, they were trendsetters, and now they became part of a very large pack. None of these other teams that I mentioned eclipsed them in
No.
popularity.
No.
No one was ever as good as them, but soon it seemed like every tag team had face paint and had muscles. The Samoan SWAT team in World Class started painting their face because of the Road Warriors. When Sting and Rock broke up, they both kept wearing the paint because of the Road Warriors. Like I said, Demolition wore the paint because of the Road Warriors. All because of what Joe Laurinaitis and Michael Hegstrand, when they got together, they did a variety of damage, to quote Mickey from Rocky, and left a wake in their path. They went from the national tag team champions to the AWA tag team champions, finally the NWA Tag Team Champions. It's ironic they were maybe the best team in the NWA for the whole 8 years they were there, but they were only NWA Tag Team Champions once. And then finally going to the WWF, completing the trifecta, the first, last, and only team to hold the World Tag Team titles in the AWA, NWA, and the WWF. Uh, that's never going to be done before. It will never be done again because obviously the other two brands don't exist. But that was unheard of, and what Joe Laurinaitis and Michael Hegstrand did was unheard of. When you put two big Minnesota dudes, former bouncers, on the same team, who would know that they would revolutionize the sport of professional wrestling and make it tag team wrestling unlike any other before then. Um, can't say enough great things about him and his brother Hawk. The Road Warrior pop is a real thing,
Yeah.
and what they did for me, and they did for I'm gonna if I can, Dan,
Do it.
I I want to speak as a black man if I could, just for a
Go.
second. Okay.
Gee, please. If anybody is qualified on this podcast to speak as a black man,
I grew up in a all black neighborhood, but we love wrestling. All the guys in my neighborhood,
you did?
we did. Saturday afternoons we watch all of our favorite wrestling shows. And then the Road Warriors came out. Yo, did you see the Road Warriors? Yo, we, I, the rest of my fellow crew that looked like me never heard the song Iron Man before. We didn't know what that was. We thought
Yeah.
that was a song made up just for the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
And then just the pump, and then when the Tommy Iommi guitar hit and they hit the ring and breakneck speed, we would all go nuts. And you look at little black boys in the streets of Northwest Philadelphia cranking Iron Man as loud as we can, thanks to the Road Warriors. And my buddy Tony, he thought the name of the group, he thought the song was called Black Sabbath, and the group was called Iron Man. Okay,
I
so
mean, that's great, man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
but that's what the Road Warriors did for a whole, I would say, a whole litany of urban youth around the country that they introduced us to Iron Man, to Black Sabbath, and to that, and the entrances were just starting to happen in the early '80s too, and marrying those two with that song made it a happening, and to the point where you had grown men screaming at the top of their lungs when that music hit. And to every person that was lucky enough to be at the Civic Center or at Veterans Stadium when they appeared at the Great American Bash, or in any NWA arena throughout the South, or in any territory, Memphis, Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, St. Paul, Minnesota, Omaha, Nebraska, Hawaii, and Japan, that song remained the same. All in the Pacific Northwest, and he wrestled for Don Owen on his card with the AWA champions. Bringing the Road Warriors in just gives you an automatic sellout, and you hit that song, and the place goes nuts. He will always be, he's such a special part of so many people's memories. And for those that only remember their WWF run with the red uh, shoulder pads and the dolls and Rocco the dummy and stuff, you guys got you got the stick. I won't say you got the short end of the stick because they still had some good matches in them, but you didn't get the long end of the stick. You didn't get the business end of the Road Warriors. You got the tail end of the Road Warriors. Okay, and I say Road Warriors, I mean Animal and Hawk, not Animal and Heidenreich or Hawk and Kensuke Sasaki and the Hellraisers and everyone else, or Crush. It was Animal and Hawk. It was
Crush.
Joe Laurinaitis and Michael Hegstrand. So
Crush.
Joe, we hardly knew ye, but the ye that we did know, we loved with all of our hearts. Again, I'll say this now because of his passing. They were the most influential tag team and the greatest tag team of all time. Always said, greatest tag team of all time, me, Midnight Express. Favorite tag team of all time, no doubt, Road Warriors.
We'll say this: as a young kid, they terrified me.
Yes.
When they were so. The only thing in wrestling that legitimately terrified me, because I was too old to be terrified by the Undertaker or scared or nervous about The Undertaker. It was just,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters had come out. So I was like, oh, yeah, he's a dead guy. That's
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
An older guy like you'd be like, that guy, I hate him.
Hey,
But
look, it's Mark Calloway. Ooh, scary.
ooh, scary. Big Southern guy, he's so scary. I was 15 when I was like, his name is Mark Calloway and he's from Texas? Well, damn. What a pop. And that was before the American Badass. This is the early days of the internet where you start, I wonder what this person's real name. Son of a bitch. But the smoky days of the NWA Saturday Night TV show, and the Road Warriors were there, and they come out and just beat the living crap out of everybody.
Yeah.
We started early, Aaron. Sorry about that. I said it on Twitter. We had to start because the debates are on at 9. We wanted to get it in before them. Sorry, bud. So the Road Warriors were just terrifying for me. I always understood it, that the reason, because they knew they sucked at the time, that Sting and Warrior did the face paint was because they wanted to get in with the Road Warriors and run matches with the Road Warriors. And am I correct? That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking the wrestling historian here.
Yes, they were, and Watts, wanted to bring them in, but because they were so much demand, they couldn't accommodate. And by the time that the Blade Runners became a thing in the dying days of the Mid South, the beginning of UWF, the Road Warriors were exclusively NWA, and so they couldn't bring in and this is before the merger, so he couldn't bring them in to work with them. Because honestly, because the Blade Runners were so green and green as grass, the people that they did work with didn't want anything to do with them because they were so terrible.
Yeah,
and
they were bad.
That's why they were broken up. And Eddie Gilbert was assigned, quote unquote, to Sting to get him over, and B, to teach him, to get with him and make him, uh, to kind of like walk him through.
Put him under his wing and like, this is what you need to do.
Is.
This is what you never need to do ever again.
Yes. Yeah. So a Blade Runner Road Warriors match never materialized, and good for them, because I did not even want to see the carnage that they would have left a very green Steve Borden and Jim Hellwig. That could have been their demise right then and there.
Steve Borden, 24 years old.
R.I.P.
All right, rest in peace. The Sting thing, just to transition between reminiscing about Road Warrior Animal, little segue here, and then to the final story of this quick little episode. You mentioned Sting and how green he was at the beginning. I need your thoughts on this.
Yeah,
because I'm biased. I'm a Sting mark. I've been a Sting mark since little boy.
Yeah, since you're a little stinger.
I was a little stinger. And I saw a tweet today, and I won't say who, because I didn't argue with him. I was like, that's certainly a hot take. That said that Sting wasn't good, and he was only as good as his opponents were.
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. Sting has had many a good match, and yeah, obviously Ric Flair is the one that made Sting Sting.
Oh yeah.
And you consider the source. You can't have a bad match against Ric Flair no matter what.
That's true.
And I would contend that his matches with Ric Flair made Sting better.
Oh God, yeah.
But you don't get a main event with Ric Flair unless you are good. That's what that person needs to know. That when Ric Flair wanted to have a 1 hour match, like, with someone on the same day as to go head to head with the WWF. Remember, the first Clash of Champions happened on the same day as WrestleMania 4.
That's right, yeah.
So Ric Flair needed a highlight match.
Yeah.
And what person was more over than Sting? But Flair wasn't going to work with just anyone to make that a main event. So you have to be good in order to get to the Ric Flair spot. So I don't agree with that statement at all, that Sting wasn't good. It was only the opponents he was in there with. We mentioned at the very beginning, when he was greener than grass, his go from the UWF, well, it started in Tennessee,
sure,
with Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. They're the first ones that said, I can't work with these two idiots because it's like working with a bunch of tree trunks. So that's when he said, Bill Watts, please take them from me because I can't teach these idiots anything. And he almost got, and Jim Hellwig got into it with a couple of people there already.
Well, see,
So
there's the difference right there. Sting was
yeah,
willing to learn, and Jim was
yeah,
like, "I do it my way."
yeah. And so and credit to Sting and also to the Road Warriors. They started the same way. They got better, and they know they couldn't. They couldn't, as long as you're getting over. You're not going to beat up everyone, and you need to learn to sell and learn to work, and learn to work a match,
Right.
and that
That's cool. I
yeah,
didn't want to make it
yeah,
about
yeah.
Sting because we're talking about
No,
Road
no.
Warrior Animal, but when you mentioned him, I
Mhm.
was like, I needed clarification from great
Yeah,
wrestling historian professor sir.
and this is coming from someone who's watched Sting from the beginning, from when he was in the Blade Runners, and because I would get tapes. I wanted to get all. I wanted a compilation. I was trying to make a compilation of all the Road Warrior knockoffs, and I had a VHS tape of the Zamboli Express, of the
The
Mod Squad.
Zamboli Express I've never heard of ever.
They're in Florida. It was Bad Leroy Brown and Ray Candy, and they reinvented themselves, and they went back to they dropped those slave names, and they reinvented themselves. So uh Bad Leroy Brown became Elijah Hakeem, and Ray Candy was Kareem Muhammad, and they come in the ring, these camouflage outfits with hats on, had big beards, and these are two round guys, and they would beat the crap out of everyone. And so they were the Florida version of the Road Warriors. And so they would Dusty Rhodes and Blackjack Mulligan, Barry Windham and Steve Kern, they would just beat the crap out of all those guys. So even the wrestler even had a article, which tag team will dominate in the 90s, the Road Warriors or the Zambuli Express? And that was just their way to get Apter's way of getting the Zambuli Express over. But I was making a VHS compilation of all the Road Warrior knockoffs, and the Blade Runners were on that. Um, so having watched Sting go from that to the UWF with under Eddie Gilbert, and he also took a young Rick Steiner under his wing too,
Right.
and made those guys uh, work, and they paid their dues. The Sting and Dick Slater helped put Sting's head in the toilet, and then that kind of toughened him up a little. But if you're Sting, you're in a federation with uh, legitimate workers like Chavo Guerrero and Buddy Landell and Eddie Gilbert, and you're also in there with legitimate tough guys like Steve Dr. Death Williams and Buzz Sawyer and Dick Slater. And also you've got guys that have been there, done that, and have the ins and outs of the business, like Ted DiBiase and the Freebirds. So you have all these uh, the influential people around you. You can't, if you don't learn, then you've got no business being a professional wrestler, because obviously this was not Steve Borton's first love. He wanted to be a basketball
Oh
player,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
but now that he learned. So I don't agree with whoever said that statement. This Sting was good.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay, but it wasn't
S-
people he wrestled.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that because if it's me, I'd be like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, you like a guy who couldn't work. I'm like, oh well, shows what
Yeah.
I know. Uh, so with that transition with Sting in mind, because Sting comes up a lot on this next topic, but it was announced. I haven't watched wrestling in weeks, and I'm not saying that like I'm proud I haven't watched wrestling in weeks. I want to, damn it. And now that the NBA finals will probably be over by the end of this week, and the NHL finals are over,
Uh,
I'm going to try to go back to it, past all the bull crap. But the WWE announced that on October 28th, that Wednesday, NXT will be bringing back the name Halloween Havoc. Now,
your
for you and
first match
I,
ever. Yes.
huh?
Your first match ever, or your first?
That was my first show ever. It was
Okay.
1989's Halloween Havoc at the Philadelphia Civic Center, and the main event was the Thunderdome cage match between
Well,
Flair and Sting versus Muda
Terry Funk
and
and Terry
Terry
Funk.
Funk, and the referee was Bruno Goddamn San Martino, and it was
Hmm.
Gary Hart in Funk and Muda's corner, and Ole Anderson and Sting in Flair's corner, and What a cluster F ending. And that is the because, the internet has this, and we all do it, this inflated, happier memory of things and how they actually were. My example for wrestling is the Attitude Era. Everybody's like, that was the greatest era. And then you go back and watch some of those Raws and like, 90% of this is crap. This sucks. What am I watching here? Then you go to those Nitros after mid-2000, you're like, oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
The same thing with Halloween Havoc. We put, shows that are no longer on the air on this pedestal. But don't get me wrong, the Attitude Era was the ratings. You can't argue with the ratings.
No.
But some of that stuff is really rough to go through. And Halloween Havoc, you say the word Halloween Havoc, you're like, man, those were the good days. And then you go back and you look at the endings and some of the crap that happened on Halloween Havoc's. Aaron, I know you're in the room, and I wanted to mention this one first specifically because I know that you're not going to stick around the whole time, and I want you to hear this. The first one I want to mention, and the thing you've got to do, is go back and watch the last hour or the last 45 minutes of Halloween Havoc 95. I can hear Craig going, God damn it. Not only does the Big Show, named the Giant at the time, have a monster truck wrestling sumo match, that's what they call it, against Hulk Hogan, who had just found the dark side because of the Dungeon of Doom. Not only does Hulk Hogan pitch the Big Show off a roof by mistake of the Cobo Hall Arena in Detroit, but he doesn't die, and he comes back, and we always call it the Dusty ending or the WCW Cluster F ending. This is number one on the end of the top of, this should be on the top of just WCW finishes. Because I can't even describe it, but Aaron, if you're listening to this, and you really want to piss the girlfriend off, the fiance off, watch this thing. Because by the end, you're going to go, even the you know what my favorite part about that is? And I just rewatched the end of it, because once they announced Halloween Havoc was coming back, I put in the DVD of the VHS copy that I have of the best of WCW Halloween Havoc that came out in 99 cassette tape.
Yeah.
And the best part about that, I always forget, is, and what's lost is, and this is not a spoiler alert, it's over how many years now? 25?
25 years.
The SpongeBob meme, exactly. But the best part about it, Aaron, and Craig, because you watched it live, probably, is this is the moment that Jimmy Hart turns on Hulk Hogan. After, and ignoring Hulk Hogan the person, we all know how we feel about that guy, jerk off.
Yeah.
Past all that, how many, Jimmy was with him on and off for?
Yeah, it started in the WrestleMania 8 when he was managing Hogan and Beefcake.
Yeah. So all that time goes, and this is the moment that Jimmy Hart turns on Hulk Hogan. And what's funny is the camera misses that completely. Misses the hit that Jimmy hits, because he hits the referee that's going to count the 3 on Hogan's win. So Jimmy nails the referee. You don't see it. It cuts back to the hard cam of everybody going, he did it. He did it, Hulk. He did it. And Hulk's like, what? And Jimmy's like, I didn't do it, buddy. Let's go get him. Then he hits Hogan with the belt. You find that. Then the Dungeon of Doom comes out. Then the Giant gets up and puts him in a bear hug. Then Lex Luger comes out with the Macho Man, and then the camera cuts and misses Lex Luger hitting the Macho Man from behind and then beating the crap out of Macho Man. Then this guy, who we later find out was Reese in the Flock, he was a power plant guy, comes dressed up as a mummy, but they call him the Yeti, Tony Schiavone, the Yeti.
Yes.
And he puts him in a bear hug around his neck. It looks like 2 guys dry humping Hogan in the middle of the ring. And that's how the show ends. And they award the title to Big Show at the end of that. So you watch that and you tell me. I want to make this quicker because I know we have a lot on the rest of the Wrestling Storied episode. I want to mention one more and then what comes to your mind, Halloween Havoc, gas. I'm going to mention a good moment, a bad moment / with a good moment.
Okay.
God, I can fit two in there. Halloween Havoc 98.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to gloss over how bad Hogan Warrior 2 was.
Yes.
The
Please.
backstory, everything, how we get back. Don't watch that, even for a laugh. It's bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
bad, bad, bad. The worst. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in wrestling. It's bad. But worse than any deathmatch. For those who don't like deathmatch wrestling, this is worse. This is a front to wrestling. I'm going to Jimmy Cornette the F out of this match. It sucks. You should never be seen again. That's how bad it is. However, the main event is DDP versus Goldberg. And I know what you're going to say. People are going to go, Goldberg. Candidate for match of the year in both companies.
Yes.
DDP and Goldberg have a great, just under 10-minute match. It's fantastic. What
Mm-hmm.
you get out of Goldberg and DDP, fantastic. The bad part of this is because the pay-per-view is running long, and I think Warrior and Wogan, Jesus,
Horry and Logan. Yeah, I would have watched that match before watching those two.
every week, every
Mm-hmm.
goddamn week. It's another one. Because Warrior and Hogan is so long and so bad,
Mm-hmm.
it overruns the pay-per-view. The whole pay-per-view is running long, and that doesn't help. To where the introductions happen, DDP comes out, Goldberg comes out, and right before the lockup, the pay-per-view cuts. And then it stops for a second, and then you see the pay-per-view start over again for the replay. Nobody saw that match live, unless you were at the arena.
Unless
Not
you were
one
there.
son of a bitch that was on pay-per-view saw that match. Nobody. They replayed it the next night on Nitro. It's just a cluster F pay-per-view ending. The only one being worse is the Yeti and Big Show dry humping Hogan. What comes to your mind? Because I mentioned a good thing, a funny thing, and a bad thing. When you think of a Halloween Havoc, what comes to mind, Craig?
Well, that show and your which happened to be your first show, Dan, the Halloween Havoc at the Civic Center,
Because
because
there
of
was
all the
two.
yeah, the star power there. What immediately comes to mind, especially in the light of the Jey Uso Roman Reigns bout from this past weekend, was the Samoan SWAT team, another loosely based Road Warrior knockoff, but when they appeared in that match, when they appeared in Halloween Havoc, they did a fire dance before the coming to ringside, and my father, who was a fireman for 26 years,
Oh no!
was the first one to point out
Oh no!
uh, there's not only is there no smoking in the Civic Center at all, there's not allowed to be any fire in that building whatsoever. Period. So and knowing all that because he was part of the people that instilled the code in that Civic Center back when he was a fireman, back when the Sixers games would go there, would have their. When he would go, he would tell other people not to put not only enforce the no smoking rule, but make sure that anyone doesn't even do it in the entranceway. To be outside the building. So when I saw the fire going, that's the first thing I thought of. My dad just went ballistic. It's like, are you serious? Is anyone not going to say anything?
You
So
and I had both the same experience growing up as a kid where we couldn't go anywhere where our fathers didn't count the alarms in the ceiling
hmm
or didn't observe every fire hazard that was in a room we were in. That's
yeah,
bad. That's going to go up.
that's good.
We're going to die
Okay,
because of that.
yeah. So that was my initial, and the what in the Hogan giant Yeti thing was like a monkey effing a football. You just don't know what to look at. What's the yeah? It's just that's my
The only
my
other one I can think of that had the potential of being really good and then they effed it up was, I think it was Havoc 91.
hmm
Sting and Sid Vicious
yeah.
that go to the back, and all of a sudden Sting picks up Sid Vicious and gets covered for the
Yeah,
one, two, three, and then of
it's
course terrible directing makes you miss the fact that Sting was tied to the back, and it was actually Barry Windham dressed as
Wyndham.
Sting. Oh, okay, so fucking.
Yes. So, well, so when I think of Halloween Havoc, I unfortunately I don't think of a lot of great. Just the name brings up invokes good memories, and even just in WCW having good matches. Road Warriors and Steiners. I think it was the Iron Man tournament they had. It was Road Warriors,
That's right.
Steiner, Doom, and somebody else.
Dude, rewatching WCW and seeing how long that Doom wasn't around for actually aggravates me.
Yeah.
Oh, I did like. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell happened? They're done already?
Yeah.
Shit.
But yeah, but I'm and I saw them. I know that made your heart light up. But with NXT, and I'm not expecting any. They had the name Halloween Havoc. I'm not expecting
Sure.
any WCW shenanigans in an NXT show.
Well,
But just having the name Halloween Havoc back, it does my heart good. I'm up for nostalgia. So,
and Harry picks on me about it, and rightfully so. It's the only real thing that he picks on me about that actually bothers me. Is that, no, I'm kidding. I don't care. When Vince, knowing that Vince had shows planned as WCW and then didn't go through with them,
yeah.
bothers me, and I'm okay with them bringing the names back. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was just my 2 cents that nobody cares about. Craig, where can the people follow you?
Well, they can follow me, Dan, as you so aptly pointed out at the beginning of this very broadcast. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Craig Lagans, CraigLaggeons.
Follow me on Twitter at all social media platforms, DanLaw83, VOCNation.com, or on your smartphone app with all the podcasts on it. Type in VOC Nation Radio Network. 4 weeks, I meant. In 4 weeks, there's changes coming. Look out for the Wrestling Historian episode from this week. For Craig Lagans, I'm Dan Calchico. We will see you next time. Night.